Good evening, everybody. This is George Sharp talking to you from Scottsdale, Arizona. I welcome you to this webinar, a formal introduction to HUMBL. Many of you have known about me for years as an advocate for shareholder rights and honesty in the OTC. And a lot of you have followed my advice. My reputation led me to a consulting gig with OTC Markets, which then gave me the credibility, I guess, that had a lot of companies come to me asking me to help them straighten out their regulatory issues. Most, if not all, I refused to help. About 12 weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to be approached by the team at HUMBL, who were looking for a way to reach the public markets. And almost at this very same time, Henry Boucher approached me with Tesoro Enterprises, looking to help out his shareholders. And before I turn this over to Brian and we talk about HUMBL, the shareholders of Tesoro owe Mr. Boucher a debt of gratitude. He has had nothing but their best interests at heart. Brian and the team came to me and did a presentation similar to what you're going to watch today. And I'm not easily impressed, but I was blown apart, quite frankly. And honestly, I don't know what I did right in my business world, that I was fortunate enough to meet up with this amazing team of entrepreneurs. The HUMBL team and the Tesoro public vehicle were a perfect match. And we laid out a plan to bring the two together, and everybody followed the plan to a T, which is a credit to Brian and his group. I truly believe that this deal is going to bring credibility finally to the OTC, and I hope that there's many more like it to come. And now it is my great privilege to introduce you to Brian Foote, the president and CEO of HUMBL Inc. Brian, take it away.
All right. Thanks, George. We appreciate it, and welcome everybody. It's an honor to serve you as shareholders of this new enterprise and endeavor that we're embarking on. We've prepared some slides for you. We have rehearsed them a ton, but we're going to throw that in the window and keep moving. So we'll go ahead and just kind of do a day one intro of HUMBL, sort of the business model that we're building here, the technologies that sit underneath it, as well as some near-term, mid-term, and long-term roadmap items that I think, if I was a shareholder, I would want to know. I wanted to start first, though, on a personal level. It's always hard to figure out how you want to start off one of these things. And I think for us, the biggest note is that we grind. We are a hardworking, very focused, highly prepared, process-driven group that wants to play our part in helping build the World Wide Web. So we're big students of history. We have a ton of respect for the folks who helped build Web 1 and Web 2. We think we're on the precipice of Web 3, given the proliferation of all of these consumer-facing and white label technologies that are exploding into the market. So as we look back in the 90s, you see folks pulling up a desk and a computer or computers and getting started, and look at Amazon and Google and PayPal 20 years ago. Like it's an honor, I think, to live at this time and have the opportunity as people to team up on trying to build something that will deliver value for your shareholders and for the customer. So that's our mission here at HUMBL. We hope to sort of have that handoff into a next decade of technological innovation, and we take it really seriously. Okay, so what does starting a web company in California look like, in 2020? As we've heard in the 90s, it was, hey, if you have something to offer in tech, throw your gear in the truck and drive out to California and see what you can do. The world is much more global now, obviously. So I think I hope we will be one of the first blue chip American technology brands that gets built on Zoom. This was just a screenshot that I took casually of our team on Monday. We have people from Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Florida, Hawaii, just New York, people from everywhere dialing in, some of whom are working at low to no cost or just for stock and have been doing so for like a year just to get moving on the project because they see what HUMBL can be and what it can provide to customers and merchants over time globally to bring us a bit closer together through technology. And then on the right is a picture of our office today in the frenzy of trying to deal with their OCD boss who wants everything perfect for the call. So I just wanted to, on a personal level, thank not only you all as our initial shareholders, but our team, our initial team that has been working here for the last 18 months, trying to figure out, hey, where can we contribute within the tech environment, doing the market research, building stuff at the last minute to be ready for our day one shareholder call. When you walk around meetings at Amazon, there's these posters that say day one everywhere, even though you're in these sort of palatial office parks. And, it's a great sort of motto to live by. And I think we'll do that at HUMBL as well, in the sense that, we were scrambling to get some stuff done for this call. I think we did 6 months of work in 6 days. So not a lot of sleep, but a lot of pride put into the preparation process for game day. So on a personal level, thank you to our early sponsors and our team members, as well as our ancillary service providers. It goes without saying that George was incredible at getting us into the OTC markets. We wanted to do something really disruptive. I knew this wasn't necessarily an overseas blockchain play, right? We were going to, do we just launch a digital asset, do it overseas from Singapore? Didn't really want to do that. We knew it takes an average of 5 to 7 years to get onto the NASDAQ. And we saw tech starting to kind of run through the same 5 venture capital firms, same 5 mega techs, same 5, investment banks in New York. And I said, okay, well, what can we do here to do something really fresh? And not only for the brand, to see if the brand stuck with the consumer audiences, but also do something from a capital markets perspective that was super disruptive and got back to kind of the basics of, early stage technology being available for anybody to invest in. So we appreciate that opportunity. Thank you, George. Okay, so what are we doing around here? We are trying to build Web3. Small task, not a big deal. But really, if you look at Web 1, so Web 1 is essentially this, wild proliferation of routers, wires, switches, the guts of the internet. You have companies like Cisco come along and others to put together something pretty simple for the consumer, where you don't see, or the enterprise, you don't see all these routers and wires and switches. You see a black box that's sort of that core protocol layer of the internet. Then the 2000s come around, and companies like Facebook and Instagram give us the opportunity to post a picture and leave a comment. So creating more of a read, write, user-generated content web. What we think Web3 is the web of value, transactional value. So taking these high-speed rails of the internet, the peer-to-peer communications of Web 2, and packaging those into an elastic layer of Web3 that moves more seamlessly across borders, across consumers, across merchants, across institutions, and across governments. And that's what we're building at HUMBL. So what does that look like when I say an elastic layer of commerce? So right now, the way the world's financial system works is it's different by country. In America, it's different by state. There's, KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering, compliance programs that you need to put in place and ensure that your partners have in place so that you can trust but verify what they're doing. So there's a lot of important regulatory complexities that come with stripping down borders between us to improve speeds, reduce fees, eliminate middlemen where appropriate, and create a more inclusive digital economy. And to us, that's what Web3 is. I read an awesome note over the weekend by an executive team that we are in close keeping with from a partner, and they said, the big winner of this explosion of all these hundreds of little fintechs that are doing something cool in lending or payments or exchange will be a consumer brand that comes in over the top and harnesses those things into one click for the customer. So I think some examples of that have been done successfully within the Fangman group of stocks, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, et cetera, would be Netflix. They have sort of their own owned and operated content, which is awesome. And then they have sort of content that they bring in from other production houses. So I think Netflix is a good example of someone who sat over the top. They said, okay, digital content is getting sprayed out all over the web. How can we elegantly package that back in for the customer into 1 or 2 clicks? And I think Netflix is a great example of that, at scale. And I think that's a lot of what HUMBL can offer, both through our own owned and operated technologies that our teams have developed, but also plug-in partners that we trust and verify to help us do things that the consumer wants to do by way of payments or financial transactions or exchanges, anything that creates a peer-to-peer layer of commerce. There will be times within HUMBL where we put you on the train and we're there to pick you up when you get off, just because we have much larger, more well-heeled and regulated partners that at times it's best for us to have them take you through the whole journey. And I think that's what we're trying to do here at HUMBL pretty well, in terms of saying, okay, there's this fintech proliferation, hundreds of cool fintech applications coming through. How do we get that back into a couple of clicks for the customer? The second example I would give to you in palm of hand would be the Apple App Store. I thought Apple did a great job. Some of their apps are their own, but they also brought in thousands of other applications from other developers to put into palm of hand in a couple of clicks for consumers. So we're learning from those companies that have done very well and trying to create something that's quite seamless and easy for the customer, both from a features and benefits standpoint, but a consumer experience standpoint as well. Okay, so what does that consumer experience look like? We're going to start with really simple products. I'll show the roadmap as we get further into the dialogue today. But we wanted to get some base hits and get going on some things. I hope all of you that are shareholders or prospective shareholders can visit humblpay.com. We have an elegant brand video on there for our mobile application and some of the merchant software applications there as well. The film is called A Borderless Day in Baja. I've been in consumer tech for about 20 years in various capacities as a consultant or an agency guy or in-house, and at major brands that I learned a lot from, very well-run companies I was fortunate to work at in consumer electronics. So I've sat behind a lot of double pane glass in market research rooms. And what was really cool about HUMBL is we called up a producer on Upwork whose work we liked, Will Clark, thank you. And we gathered together some folks who we knew tangentially through friends and family that were in the decades of consumers we hope to build for, millennials and Gen Z and so on. And we rounded up 10 of them. And I said, all right, just take a camera, take out HUMBL, take out the HUMBL merchant software, take out the HUMBL mobile app in a sandbox here in the California and Mexico, and just go run with it and come back with use cases, come back with your experiences with the product. And when a customer comes back or a merchant comes back with 10 or 20 use cases for your technology, and you're not trying to force anything in there, and then every single one of them wants to come work for you after they use it, it's like, and by the way, we hired all of them, you're onto something there. You don't need to do much more formal market research than that. So we'll start here with the HUMBL mobile app. As I say, each American state and country and domicile has its own regulatory considerations. The design and technology and the partners are not a problem for us here. I think, in terms of strengths and weaknesses, HUMBL is very good at branding. I mean, I think we're clearly seeing that the global consumer understands HUMBL almost instantly and loves it. So I think we're really good at brand, team, tech, partnerships, and product market fit. And I think as long as we can make sure that our capital markets game is on point, and our executions go well to go from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 100, I think we'll be really successful. So we'll roll out the mobile app in a limited sandbox, but we'll scale that very, very quickly through partners over the coming year. We have the merchant software. Sometimes that's just simply a POS, point of sale QR code, that enables merchants who are in majority cash environments. So for example, we're here in San Diego. Across the bridge here by half an hour is Mexico. And part of the reason our business was born here is, the majority of merchants in Mexico are in cash still, so physical paper bills and coins. At best, they're in some hardware like a credit card that you swipe. We think that over time, payments and communications between consumers and merchants move into an entirely digital format. So that's part of that Web3 story that we're telling. And then we have the marketplace piece, which I'm extremely excited to announce today. I think that's going to surprise people a little bit. We studied some other markets like Alipay and Alibaba Marketplace, and saw how they sort of paired the wallet and the merchant deals with a marketplace, and have found it very effective. So I'm really excited today to announce the marketplace piece as well. So here's sort of that connected customer experience. You'll see slightly different designs in the brand film from today. I just wanted to kind of change some of the designs a little bit, just so it's like, nothing people have ever seen before. The social aspect was what folks came home with a lot, and they said, this is as much a social media and reviews play as it is payments. So excited to bring forward some really fresh designs that I think will be different than anything you see in the marketplace from, more rote, wire or banking or fintech applications that are maybe fairly hardcore in the functionality that they serve, but aren't particularly engaging for the consumer. So you'll see the ability to create a profile, find people, make connections. So I wanted to give a shout out to our brand team. I think they're just amazing. Some of the internal designers and brand folks that we have. We've also hired technologists and designers from the same agency in Silicon Valley that helped build what I believe is the world's largest payment app at this time. So we're excited to have them join us on this journey. Text messaging, searching for people, and then peer-to-peer payments. So you'll do things like conversions, text messaging. Hey, can you send me the rent? Can we split this bill? Type of thing. Some of the behaviors that we've studied in some of the really good quality payment apps that exist already here in the United States. And then stable coins, super interesting. I think people probably saw, with Visa, they announced this week that they're going to start experimenting with USDC stablecoins, which is what we work with through partners. So if you're a merchant in like a currency fluctuation zone, like Latin America, for example, where you see countries where their currency fluctuates 25% to the downside versus the dollar, these are very real tools that are critical for folks to be able to park their money into US dollar stable coins and things like that. So we have that capability. And as we get regulatory clearances from different countries and domiciles, we'll be moving quickly on that as well. On the merchant layer, we've got the simple, very rote digital POS. So, you go down to Mexico, you can't even buy a Snickers bar without going to the ATM, getting cash out. Half these paper bills you come home with, you don't even need them. So it's very inconvenient, and the younger audiences that we test with, as well as the merchants that seek to serve them, both natively and those traveling in from abroad, want to use a mobile wallet that is multi-currency and multi-asset and gives them the ability to, in a contactless capacity, point and pay. So we built that, and you'll see that in the film. We have a more robust merchant software program that we've built. And then in the roadmap, something we've been building behind the scenes and will we'll have a different meeting on this in the future. We're building behind the scenes an agent software. What we discovered was when you travel to markets where you're doing this market research, so Latin America, Oceania, Middle East, you go into these markets and you realize that, there's a reason why a Western Union has 500,000 agent locations, more or less, because folks come into these high traffic merchant areas and they need basic services, maybe want to pay a bill or something like that, exchange money, receive money. So we hired some folks from some of the legacy providers that helped build their systems from a decade ago and said, break it down and build it up again into a piece of software that KYC, AML, highly licensed agents and custodians with full regulatory clearances would be able to use over time. So we'll crawl, walk, run on how we roll out this business. Just from a regulatory standpoint, we want to have a really long-term run here. We're a hyper compliance focused organization. So we'll keep some cars in the garage sometimes until we know exactly what is a go or no-go zone for the business. From a merchant standpoint, we also wanted to create an elastic layer of connection between the merchant and the consumer. You go to these markets that we intend to serve. I'm hesitant to call them emerging markets because in many ways they're moving faster than we are. But the ability to discover a merchant, find them, read reviews about them, text orders, provide contactless payments, scan, pay, and tip. These services, I think, are sort of fairly siloed and bifurcated across even the most advanced payments markets. You'd have to go to 5 or 6 different applications to do this, and we just sort of did a silo buster thing where we said, why wouldn't you want to just seamlessly do this throughout the experience? So we give the opportunity to leave a review. We'll do some split payment stuff. And then also you'll be able to socially kind of find out, my friend liked that, or this is where he or she visited when they were in Bogota, as an example. And then the final third thing that I wanted to announce today, before doing a little bit of Q&A and getting out of here, is the HUMBL Marketplace. So I'm thrilled that this is going on. We've hired some amazing people within the omni-channel. Jenny Edgerton joins us from Tapestry. Veronica, who's going to ask me the Q&A in a minute, has done an amazing job. Michelle and Karen have a fantastic retail background. And I used to roll out programs like this with big retail online. So this stuff is table stakes for us, but it's great for the consumer. So with that, and today, we'll be announcing on our socials and so on that you can, before you buy online, come on by HUMBL and make sure you're getting the best deal. So we'll aggregate some links and some merchant codes and some things like that to make sure that we can get customers great deals. We'll be curating some channels there. So we've engaged with some local artisans as well. Natasha Williams is going to come down. She has some great Hollywood experience with some of this. She's going to do a flash sale here in our studios with some of her one-of-one pieces from Gypsy Posh. And then we're engaging with other artisans from around the world that we hope one day you'll be able to quite easily pay with HUMBL on your travels. But meantime, the opportunity to support one-of-one stuff on the HUMBL studios and the artisan shops. So with that said, I'll just introduce you guys here on day one to the business model. This may look familiar because it's very similar to what Alibaba has done in China, which we applaud the way they've been able to take ground so quickly there. We obviously have very different design language and some things with the brand and some markets that we're going into that they aren't. But we think there's a great model to be had there. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just want to execute. So we have the HUMBL Marketplace. We got the Pay Wallet. And then over time, we will be announcing the HUMBL Financial Division. We have some products there that we're awaiting further regulatory guidance on with our portfolio of law firms. So we're excited to roll those out over time as well. So here's sort of that case study I mentioned. You get these great merchant deals going on the marketplace. I think what's notable about our studios piece is, big tech retail has had a lot of problems with fake ratings, fake reviews, and fake merchandise. And we wanted to give people a really nice quality curated experience there with the HUMBL Studios. You then migrate them into the Pay Wallet so that they can connect more seamlessly with those merchant deals and codes. And then over time, Ant Financial worked back into the mobile wallet and was able to give customers over 7,000 different partners, products, and services into the Pay Wallet. So once we think, the captive audience is there, the amount of stuff that can be served in there is great. We're already negotiating with some financial service and insurance providers to give people better rates than they would get if they weren't inside HUMBL, and so on. And then we have our own in-house products that I'm excited to reveal at some point to the marketplace as we know more. So, okay, so I'm a shareholder. What do you guys have built right now? Right now in the barn, we have send money, request money, receive money, exchange money, stable coins. We do have a third-party negotiation with an earn interest capability as well. We're not ready to roll that out yet. We need more regulatory guidance. From a merchant perspective, you can text an order, do contactless payments, rate and review your experience at the merchant. We have CRM features, meaning we can take any offline, cash-only, dead tech merchant who's like, I just want to be able to take credit cards or bank accounts. We can turn them into a digitally connected consumer relationship management merchant within a day. So very exciting for that. As an illustration, Karen Garcia, who's running our affiliate program, and we'll be opening up our affiliate program to different countries or regions. So if you have interest in that, please reach out to us as we expand. I challenged our Mexico sales team. I said, okay, go sign up 100 merchants in a week. They came back with 300 merchants in 3 days. So the desire to get out of the cash layer and potentially even skip the hardware cycle and go straight to point and pay is visceral. So we're excited to get into markets that are still cash only and give people who are domestic and younger and wanting to use a mobile wallet, or travelers inbound in very high tourism zones. These are like zones where tourism is a top 3 GDP data point. The ability to point and pay in a contactless capacity, which is even more visceral now with COVID. And then the financial division. So I'm also excited to announce today that we are joined on our financial division by the former CEO of Coinbook, Calvin Waite, as well as his team. I did a piece of business with Calvin, exploratory piece of blockchain business, 18 months ago or something, where we had created some novel blockchain financial product inventions, and he and I had worked on them, and he's got some things that he's working on there. And so we just said, Calvin, let's just get together and put these products out as we know more. So, it's something where we're really keen to, ensure that our innovations are keeping good pace with regulation and vice versa. And so we're going to be really cautious. We want to have a really long-term, high quality brand story here. So we're not just going to, take cars out on the freeway that we don't know we're allowed to drive yet. So give us a little patience there. We're working hard on it. And I think the US is entering a new era of blockchain understanding and fintech understanding, and our ability to remain competitive on the global stage and serve customers on the global stage is exciting. And I think it's coming down the path. So we're very hopeful. Okay, so in terms of market sizing and competitive landscape, these are just some data we pulled. Estimated user base, these aren't hard numbers. I just think it gives a sense of scale. There's some great providers out there already, but we think there's just a huge total addressable market here that we can go after and serve, particularly in the corridors where we're already signing syndication and distribution deals in key verticals. So a lot of road to hoe here. We're still really early. We think every consumer in the world is going to need a mobile wallet by 2030, or a hubs that they can stop into if they're outside the smartphone layer. And then lastly, the growth strategy roadmap. Thank you again to George and our law firms, Brian Innes, Ernie Stern, others who helped us complete this merger in record time. It was amazing. I feel like I've had to make 15 decisions a day on that. So I'm excited just to get back to running the business. We launched today the HUMBL holiday deals and HUMBL Marketplace, which we hadn't really talked about, but it's on. We now pursue merger and acquisitions opportunities, which we're actively engaged in some M&A, putting the stock to work out there in some of these markets where maybe there's some really cool junior fintechs that are doing awesome stuff that plugs in very readily to Humble, but COVID's been hard on everybody. Even major companies are still not providing clear guidance. So there are some fintechs out there that we think we can creatively acquire by putting the stock to work and getting into markets faster. We are also in active negotiations for the sale of 1 to 2 regions that I've had my eye on for a while. This is a strategy that dates back, 30 years to Western Union and others who have sold, rights deals or some kind of syndication deals into markets that, that we feel maybe we won't localize as effectively as the folks on the ground there that are looking at taking out the rights. And where we say, okay, we're giving up a little, but we're getting a lot because they know more than we ever will about their markets. And they have, install bases or joint ventures that they think if they, acquire the rights to Humble, they can help us grow at a faster pace than us trying to jet down there and do some things. So we are exploring those deals, nothing concrete and no promises, but we are exploring both M&A and we are exploring the sale of country or regional rights with parties that we are actively negotiating with. We've requested the ticker symbol HMBL, so that's in play. As you saw on the video, we have begun testing live product in the US and Latin America. Some of that is done through trusted third-party partners that you will have part of your journey custodiated by. And some of that's owned and operated stuff, ratings, reviews, text ordering, these things. We hope to provide a seamless Web3 experience over time. There's also markets that we will go into and own and operate because it's not as expensive for us to go in there and set up the market. But whenever we can, I think it's just more effective for us, having seen the rate cards that we've been quoted by some of our distribution partners. We think we can get in there and save the customer up to 50% in certain circumstances without us necessarily having to go in and operate and license the region external to some of what they're doing and what they do better than we do. So we'll have our own KYC and AML and compliance program so that we can trust and verify those partners. But these are best of breed partners that serve customers behind the scenes whose names you would recognize on a global financial level. And then we'll make some announcements about the Humble Financial Division. I want to get really clear guidance on what we can and can't roll out. We have some, we're all blockchain heads in the business, so we have some really clear stuff that we'd like to roll out. We've put together some multi-factor indices around digital assets. We've put around some digital asset financial products and tokenized asset baskets. So we're just going to kind of have to learn what products we can serve of our own into Humble Financial and which ones we have to lean into for third-party partners based on the regulatory climate of the US, which we're very keen to be compliant with and knowledgeable of through our portfolio of law firms. We're also working through some key launch zones for Q2. We have partners that are already piping in syndication into these regions and have been there for a long time. So we think we can grow faster. Software, is downloadable. So it's, push a button and go as long as you can get the mechanics of the business right behind the scenes. So we're not going to, as I say, I don't want to commit any early term footfalls. We want a really long-term intelligent growth plan here. So I'm not going to, rush the product line into the marketplace if it's going to cost us some impact in terms of how we roll out. So we're, I think, being really thoughtful of how we architect and roll out this business to make sure that we're a really trusted, intelligently run brand. In Q2, we'll also issue audited company financials. So I'm still getting some coaching on how to be a public CEO with these mechanics, but we'll be doing the audited company financials there as well, and hopefully some JV and vertical sales into Q3. So we've already started some of those, as you've seen with the PRs. We've closed a bank in Brazil called Bexus, who are very keen on their digital bank that's seeking to partner with us. They're doing some very disruptive things. As a merchant in Brazil, even Bexus, who's one of the leading digital banks, they have these great foreign exchange engines and payment engines. They said, on the backside of all this, it's still very inconvenient for us here in Latin America to do some things in terms of, remittances to technology providers for cloud in the United States, stuff like that. They still have 3 or 4 steps they have to go through to do sort of base case things around some of these merchant activities. So we look forward to architecting with them some pieces of software within the mobile app or potentially the merchant software that can help expedite some of these activities in places like Latin America. We've had very good discussions with government leaders around the world who have been welcoming to us. We do think that a number of governments are going to move to digital forms of their national currency over time, not all the way, but a bit, and you're going to need a mobile wallet to accommodate that. And then wireless, of course, massive install bases. So we're meeting with some wireless partners that will need a mobile wallet tucked into their wireless coverage. And then there's a category called merchant aggregators. So this fits in with like a DIPL, Digital India Payments Limited, where we got a little derailed with them from COVID, but we look forward to reinvigorating those discussions as we move forward into 21 if the skies part on travel. So merchant aggregators are basically folks who have gone out and maybe helped merchants install things like legacy hardware, card swipes, tablet POS, stuff like that are now looking to put those systems into one piece of software where they can perform multiple functions at the retail level. So we'll be working with them on programs like that. So this is not going to happen overnight. It's a long-term build, but we have strong market demand in the categories that we've tested this in as a solution, both for HUMBL and then the HUMBL Hubs walk-in piece. And then lastly, for December, for the shareholder conference, we're going to hold a HUMBL shareholder conference, and Karen's going to do a dinner with her affiliate sales leaders for the markets, which I think Alondra in Mexico has already won that by a mile. So we'll see what happens there. But that's kind of the game plan for what we are doing in the upcoming year. And we thank you again as shareholders for your trust in us to work hard on your behalf, and that's what we're going to do. So I think on the agenda we had said there would be a very light Q&A, and then the HUMBL team wanted to get on and wave goodbye to everybody and say happy holidays. So with that, I will turn it over to Veronica, who is our newly named media and social marketing manager in the Omnichannel, to answer a very quick couple of questions, and then we'll get you on your way.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica. I'm the marketing brand manager for HUMBL. I am really excited to be here to ask Brian, our CEO, questions that we were submitted by our shareholders. Brian, what inspired you to build HUMBL?
So, and we can do this in 12 minutes, so we get everybody out of here by 3. Okay, so what inspired us to buy HUMBL? To build HUMBL, excuse me. As I was saying, we're here on the border region, so this is the busiest border crossing in the world, right? And you have San Diego and Mexico across the border. I think it's table stakes for people here to go, oh, well, I just used Apple Pay to buy a Starbucks and that's how everybody lives, and if you look at the numbers, that's just not how it is. So we took an office in Mexico and we started traveling over there, which we've done our whole lives, but now with a more concerted view as business people. And we started meeting with merchants, and they said, over 50% of the merchants are still cash only, desire to get into digital payments. You have high lending rates, so up to 30% of the population is still payday or weekly loan dependent, a need for more dynamic pricing there. And so we just sort of started to put it together here on the border region that there might be something to how we digitize the migration to a more inclusive economy. The other thing they told us was, there's another misconception from US tech, which is that everybody has a smartphone, and that's also not true. So what you need is these hubs where people, and whether it's on our software or others, you need to be able to walk into a merchant and perform basic services if you're not on a smartphone. So I think, again, the US assumption is that everybody has, some $1,000 iPhone, and that's not how life is for the majority of the pyramid. And so that's where we came up with HUMBL Hubs, as well as we said, okay, we note that you're a high foot traffic location, and you'd be amazed at the verticals that we've already been closing just on the point and pay QR code POS piece. You have these high foot traffic locations that right now are being leaned into for what is essentially roadside finance. And so you have very high rates, very high cash dependencies, and we just saw an ability for software to go in there and disrupt. I think Uber is actually a great case study in that sense. You have a mobile app, and then the driver has a piece of software, and you marry a rider and a driver together with mobile applications and software. Legacy taxis were long lines, perhaps a dispatcher, you're going to get cash, you're negotiating the rate. The whole thing is very friction filled. And so we think that HUMBL and HUMBL Hubs can provide some fluidity to the travel between the US and other markets, both organically in a domestic capacity, but then also as we get more global in our lifestyles. So that's how we founded the business.
Perfect. All right, next question. What are the future applications of HUMBL Hubs software?
Okay, so this will take us down to Oceania, I think, as a personalized story. So after we did the tests in San Diego and Mexico, we did a little bit more market research. We were fortunate enough, we had to go down to Singapore to receive an award for the World Blockchain Summit. We then carted over to Oceania, where we were hosted by the royal family of Tonga. Okay, and 40% of their GDP is remittances. So every single percentage or fee that you take back out of the banking or service layer and put back into families or the economy, there's extreme amplification effects to that. So we would like to, and again, a lot of it goes back to regulatory and making sure we're cleared, to provide software where the walk-in customer is getting fees or fees reduced, faster speeds, better processing times, or a merchant who's perhaps on the roadside is able to serve that customer in a more fluid way. So we made friends with I won't drop his name, but it's a rugby star down there who's retired, and he was at this dinner we had with the Tonga royal family. We ended up staying there for a month because we became friends with all of them, and we were fascinated by their region. It's sort of a litmus test for how other UN 2030 countries need to address these topics. And so he comes to us and he goes, why don't you guys come with me to Samoa and then New Zealand and Australia, and I'll show you how it's quite similar. So we went to Samoa, and he's driving us around, Karen and Michelle and I, he's driving us around, and there's this supermarket that's an hour outside of town, okay, and everybody's going in there, Coca-Cola's, bag of chips, getting their, Samoan ta'a and walking back out. And I said, okay, well, and I just started reverse engineering with people like, hey, how's money work for you? How's this stuff work? And they go, well, I drive an hour into town to wait an hour in line to pay on average in Oceania 10 to 12% as a cost to serve money, landed cost. So, we started looking at that and going, okay, wait a second. If we can put a piece of software together where that customer in that small village in Samoa is able to just simply walk into the merchant and say, check my HUMBL balance. I'd like to shop digitally here, and right now that'll be through an ID and KYC and AML and some other analog processes. Over time, I think, India points the way to having that with your thumbprint or facial recognition, and there's some considerations there in terms of privacy that you need to think about. But with the hubs, we thought, well, we asked them, we said, if you could walk into this store and you had received a balance in your remittance from, your cousin in Utah, and you could just shop digitally with that balance on your HUMBL balance, would that be a more effective payments grid for you? And they're like, yeah, of course. You'd save me an hour into town. You'd save me 10 to 12% on breakage. And you'd save me time and money and this sort of thing. So the hub software, I think in our sort of 5-year view has the really strong potential to serve the full pyramid, right? This is not always smartphone to smartphone, because even if you get money on your smartphone, if you can't point and pay at the merchant, it's not of value to you. You still have to go to the bank and hit the ATM and do these paper bills all over again. Absolutely. And I think it's going to seem like a stone wheel in the future. I really believe that as a medium for money. So the hubs we see as a connector piece to the full pyramid. If you look at the market sizing and the install bases of some of the existing mobile wallets that are smartphone to smartphone, the inclusion of a hub software starts to speak to a much broader total addressable market.
Thank you for that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Will there be any future divisions launched in Humble besides Humble Pay?
Well, you saw us launch the omni-channel division today. So that was super cool with the Humble Studios and the Humble Holidays. So definitely before you buy online, come on, buy Humble. We'll be curating some deals there. I'm sure we'll build in a pricing optimization engine over time. But for now, I mean, we've got people around the office that are grinding on finding coupon codes, deal sites, links to the best travel offers, gift giving. That can be an absolute, rat's nest for the shopper online. As we did some market research, they're kind of like, oh, these coupons work 30% of the time and this and that. So we wanted to just create a highly curated but very effective site where folks could come and get discounts and things like that, as well as have local artisans that can do some one-of-one pieces, which you'll see with Natasha and some of our Humble shops that get tucked in there on that Shopify integration. And then the last piece, of course, is, as I was saying, Calvin and Adam and I and Jeff are all blockchain heads. So we'll have an iteration of Humble Financial. It is coming, that I can guarantee. We're just getting guidance on what products that we can serve of our own novel blockchain developments that we have, and our own novel blockchain financial products that we want to roll out, as well as third parties, of course, just learning from the Ant financial model that, the customer is fine if you just serve them something from a trusted third party as well, as long as it's giving them a value, a discount, a takeaway. So you'll see the Humble shopping division and then the Humble financial division for sure in the coming quarters.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And last and final question, what is the 10-year vision for Humble?
Yeah, I mean, I think, going back to the UN 2030, I was just absolutely honored when the Tonga royal family asked me to speak with some of their time that they granted me in the Asian Pacific Economic Summit. That was a really cool experience, intimate experience. And, we talked about that and we said, okay, how can you create a more intelligent digital grid, right, for trade, track, pay, exchange of value between peers and institutions and government in a way that's very fluid and very elastic and is very still regulated and intelligently architected for the populace, but is pressing the envelope in terms of reducing fees, improving speeds, eliminating middlemen, and bringing on board new technologies like blockchain and fintech that we think can be just a terrific building block for the future of how we have our global economies intertwined together.
Thank you. Thank you for all that.
Likewise. Thanks, Veronica. And thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Thank you. And then I think everybody wanted to wave goodbye from Humble. So there we go. Happy holidays. Someone, you should take a screenshot of it. Our Hollywood Squares moment. Thank you all. Bye.